I'm very dramatic sometimes. Every time something bad comes my way, my reaction is like the world is ending. And the worst part, I get nothing useful done. I just get so confused, like I have no idea what to do. I just think of possibilities, and they're all bad possibilities as well. So what do you do when that happens? You know, in hard times, we always tend to put everything not related to the problem on hold, and then we gladly dive into our problems in our head. And at this stage, we have successfully entered into overthinking mode, except that nothing gets done, you know? And it's so hard to snap out of it too. So I was looking for help in the Quran until I found this great example from Musa alayhi salam, which I thought was exactly what we would be looking for in times like this. So the context here is that Musa just killed a man, and so kind of a big deal, you know? The Egyptian authorities are after him, and so he also escapes Egypt and leaves his life of luxury under Pharaoh behind, essentially becoming a fugitive from Egypt. And now he has arrived in a new city, the city of Madian, and he has come with very, very small means of survival. Now, you think this is the time where one would be deep in his or her thoughts trying to figure out a way out. I mean, it's pretty overwhelming. So you can think about a lot of things. Let's put ourselves in his shoes for a minute. We can sit down and think about the man we just killed. We can think about our beautiful past where we were safe and at home and everything was easy. We can also think about how we'll be able to have a life in this new town. We can think about a lot of things, but instead we find a prophetic attitude, a prophetic approach. Allah paints Musa's very careful observation of the environment around him in Surah Al-Qasas. And this is really key here. وَلَمَّا وَرَدَ مَاءَ مَدْيَنَ وَجَدَ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ يَسْقُونَ وَوَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمْ امْرَأَتَيْنِ تَذُودَانِ قَالَ مَا خَطْبُكُمَا قَالَتَا لَا نَسْقِي حَتَّى يُصْدِرَ الرِّعَاءُ وَأَبُونَا شَيْخٌ كَبِيرٌ. And when he arrived at the water of Madian, he found a large number of people watering their animals. And he found aloof from them 2 women keeping their animals back. So he said, "What is the matter with you?" They said, "We cannot water our animals until these shepherds take their animals back after watering them. And our father is a very old man." Here, Musa recognized 2 women whom he thought might be having a little trouble, watering their animals because of the crowd of shepherds and how distant they looked from them. He inquired further. The verse itself makes the use of the word wajada, or found, twice. And it's really so simple. It can be easy to miss this point here. Musa alayhi salam sought an opportunity to lend a hand, to lift a burden off someone else, since he was truly helpless in his situation. He even inquired to them, what is the matter? What is your concern? He clearly went out of his way to find out what he can offer and how he can be of assistance. I find it really admirable, especially considering his own tough circumstance. If anything, it was Musa who needed someone to ask him that question. It's incredible. So we won't have opportunities knocking on our door all the time. Sometimes we have to get out there and see what's happening in our families, our neighbors, our communities, our ummah at large. There will always be something you can do, and there will always be pain that we can relieve for someone. And so the secret is really this: by putting our own tight situations aside and attending to those who basically we can help instead, opens these doors that we will never break by overthinking. Allah describes how Musa seized an opportunity to be of help to others with his God-given strength. He took initiative and watered their flocks for them. He then secluded himself in the shade. And at that stage, he directly put his needs to Allah and made dua for Allah to send him any kind of good. فَسَقَ لَهُمَا ثُمَّ تَوَلَّ إِلَى الظِّلِّ فَقَالَ رَبِّي إِنِّي لَمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٌ. So he, Musa, Musa watered their animals for them, and then he turned to a shade and said, "My Lord, I'm in need of whatever good you send down to me." Remember what I said about doors being opened? Well, here it is. After he made the plea to Allah, one of those women came back to take him to their father to reward him for what he did. Their father eventually gave an offering to Musa alayhi salam to have 3 things every one of us is pretty much looking for at an instant: a house, a spouse, and a stable job. And not just any job, but a job with a contract for quite a few years. So not even an internship. What's interesting here is that he didn't scout for a woman. He didn't even apply for a job, but he did lend a hand when there was a chance. So these are the kind of doors that Allah opens for people that deal with their situation in this manner. Essentially, from being a homeless, jobless fugitive to someone with security, shelter, and a means of living and a whole family. It's amazing that Musa never really wallowed in self-pity, because you see, there was no time for that. He used the mental energy to focus on what's around him instead. And after lending a hand, he followed that action with a humble plea to God. You know, I remember when I really tried applying this, I was really hungry once, and I made too much of a deal out of it in my own mind, as usual. I stayed in bed just trying to think what to order or what to cook, and I was in the mood for none of that. I spent like a good 10 minutes just looking at the floor, you know, like just thinking. Then I realized there was a whole container of apple juice in the fridge that no one was going to drink, and I thought, hey, why not take this to the mosque with a few cups? I'm sure there are people out there that would love to quench their thirst that way, and so I did. And subhanAllah, I met my neighbor there, and he took me to a supermarket, bought me a few bars, and that did the trick for me. You know, it was so simple. I went home clear-headed, and I was feeling great, and I wasn't even hungry anymore. So that's just a small example. May Allah enable us to stay sharp for those around us in need when we ourselves are in the hardest of times. Always ask about your brothers and sisters and seek your place within their distress. And of course, as always, I want to remind you that this is not a tafsir. This is a reflection on the established meanings of the verses amongst our scholars. I'm not your neighborhood scholar or your teacher. I'm just some Muslim kid.